Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 4-game MLB Division Series MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, this is something I don't typically do, but I always mention I do have Patreon packages, MLB packages over there on Patreon, and I just want to review kind of what I had last night in my power rankings and my cheat sheet, because I think we've really been doing good over there all year long, but I mean specifically last night when I was reviewing what I had gone over, I think we did pretty good overall. I mean, when I was looking at my hitters, Martin Maldonado went deep last night. Alex Bregman went deep last night, and then George Springer had 2 bombs. Randy Arozarena went deep last night. And my cheat sheet, I had a lot of good calls as well. Over here with once again, Alex Bregman call at third base on FanDuel. I had Chad Pinder. He went deep. Randy Arozarena once again went deep. Chris Davis went deep. Mike Zunino went deep. Alex Bregman once again. Chad Pinder once again. Giancarlo Stanton had 2 home runs. And then Randy Arozarena once again. So, you know, this is something I offer to my Patreon members that are willing to pay for a little bit extra for my content. I appreciate your guys' support, but also just this is stuff I talk about during the videos, and I back it up with my calls. So, I don't know, just something I wanted to go over real quick. I think we killed it last night, and I'm looking forward to keeping it going tonight. As always, if you could please just leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you've been enjoying the content. If you're new to the channel, you might as well hit the subscribe button, because I will be here all MLB season, postseason, breaking down these slates to help you win games. And as we go along here, I had mentioned in the last video, I will be willing to make some changes, maybe do some more of some lineup building shows, and that goes for my Patreon members as well, because I realize when there's only 2 games going on, power rankings and cheat sheet might not work out as well, because, I mean, we're dealing with a couple teams. It's not very hard to pick the best players on both teams, so I will be doing more of the game theory breakdown and kind of helping you guys with ownership and who I would prioritize and who I would be fading, etc. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by strikeout rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top pitcher of the slate today is that and Ian Anderson taking on these Miami Marlins. Young kid who's made a real good impression this year. He has a 32 innings pitched sample size, a 29.7% K rate, 11.9 swinging strike rate. The ground ball to fly ball stuff has looked great. Against righties, he has a 22.4% K rate, and then against lefties, he has a 36.6% K rate. So really excelling against left-handed hitting as far as when it comes to the K rate. The right-handed hitters not as much. And when looking at his matchup today, taking on these Miami Marlins, they definitely do have a majority of righties. However, with that being said, he does come in as a 215 favorite. Vegas really likes him to pick up the win, and he tops the slate overall in K rate. So, you know, when you factor in the Vegas lines, you factor in that the Miami Marlins are only implied to score 3.42 runs. And you factor into the kid's K rate. I definitely have a ton of interest in Ian Anderson today. And then lastly, when looking at my team hitting data sheet, if we go ahead and check out the Marlins and how they've fared in strikeout rate this year, you can see that they do have a 25.1% K rate. And then across the board in WOBA, ISO, slugging, BABIP, fly ball, hard hit percentage, you know, how they fare against right-handed pitching doesn't get much better, 25.4% K rate. And then red and orange across the board, you know, team hitting data sheet color-coded to match up them against the rest of the league, and orange and red is not good. So I definitely like the matchup for Ian Anderson today, and I definitely would have interest in him. Charlie Morton, second on the slate in K rate with a 29.2% K rate, taking on these New York Yankees. A 12.4 swinging strike rate. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff is very good. The hard hit rate's very good. He has been struggling as of late, I will mention, but you can see he's really good against right-handed hitting. That's his specialty, and these Yankees definitely have a ton of them. And when you look at his numbers against the lefties, that's when it dips down. So not as strong in the strikeout category against right-handed hitting. He only has a 24.4% K rate against righties compared to a 34.3% K rate against lefties. However, the ground ball, the fly ball, the WOBA, the hard hit rate, and the slugging is absolutely great against right-handed hitting. And that's going to fare him well in this matchup, because you have to be good against right-handed hitting against these New York Yankees, because their lineup is just absolutely stacked with right-handed hitting. DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Luke Voigt, Giancarlo Stanton, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, Clint Frazier, Gary Sanchez. Literally the only lefty in the lineup. or the projected lineup is that in Aaron Hicks. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees go ahead and throw in Brett Gardner to match up with the splits, but that would still be only 2 lefties in the lineup. So Charlie Morton definitely looking like a solid option. He's really struggled this year, and the Tampa Bay Rays do have a very, very short leash with their starting pitching. They will turn it over to their bullpen relatively quickly because they do have a very good bullpen, and that's just the way the Rays system works. I mean, when looking at their bullpen data, if we go down to the Rays, you can see there's a lot of green popping up, and that's because they have a very good bullpen. So just showing you guys the data real quick on my bullpen data sheet. I'm not lying. The Rays have a good bullpen. So yeah, that's what you're dealing with Charlie Morton. I do think that he has a ton of upside taking on the New York Yankees. With some of their big sluggers, they do have some strikeouts in their lineup, but he could get pulled early. So these are the risks. This is the risk you have with picking Charlie Morton. Clayton Kershaw, 25.7% K rate. Swinging strike rate's great. The ground ball, the fly ball is great. The walk rate's great. The hard hit is the only thing that Kershaw struggles with. Same thing applies to righties, 26.1% K rate, and then against lefties, he's got a 24.6% K rate. Really just great across the board outside of the hard hit rate for Clayton Kershaw. So he's a guy you can always have interest in playing. However, with that being said, he does have a tough matchup taking on the San Diego Padres, who really excel against left-handed pitching when you have guys like Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Will Myers, Tommy Pham. They are a tough opponent. And specifically when looking at my team hitting data sheet, going to the Padres and seeing how they fare. Let's see. You can see they do only have a 21.1% K rate overall, so not a ton of strikeouts in the lineup. Against righties, they really excel, and then against lefties, it actually does dip down a little bit overall as a team. They do have a 22.4% K rate, and the hard hit rate, the slugging, and all that stuff actually does dip down. So overall, as a team, they are a little bit worse against lefties, but they do have those premier bats that absolutely slug, and guys like Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis at the top of the order, and then Will Myers and Tommy Pham is a bat that wasn't in the lineup for a while this year due to his injury, and he's back. So yeah, I do think that Clayton Kershaw is definitely a viable option. He comes in at a 9.6K price tag on DraftKings for good reason because he can control the game. However, as we're going along here, and once we get done breaking down this pitching, and we have to move on to bats, we're figuring out the type of salary we're going to want to pay for our preferred bats. We may want to go with some cheaper option outside of Kershaw, but he's definitely viable if we can figure out some cheaper bats that we like. Jesus Luzardo, taking on these Houston Astros, is a guy that's really solid across the board. He has a 25.5% K rate, a 13% swinging strike rate. The K percentage against righties is very good with a 24.9, except the hard contact, the slugging, and the WOBA isn't the greatest. And then against lefties, he really, really excels. That's where he's strong. I will say that these Houston Astros really just don't strike out. They're a team that's very hard to play pitching against in daily fantasy sports because we need strikeouts for our pitchers to be worth their price tags. And Luzardo comes in at a 7.5K price tag and once again has to take on these Houston Astros. So looking at my team hitting data sheet, you can see the Houston Astros are actually the very, very best in the league in strikeout rate. They have a 19.9% K rate. Overall, against righties at 20.5, and then against lefties, it actually dips down to an 18.7. So he's a left-handed pitcher. The Astros are number 1 in the league against K rate, and then they actually get better against left-handed pitching. So, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say don't play Jesus Luzardo today. That would be my advice. He does have the stuff, but I don't think he has a strikeout upside. I think we can go elsewhere. And that's where we start to break down these bottom tier guys because I do think that there are a couple of viable options here. One in Masahiro. We'll break these guys down real quick and then we'll move on over to hitting. I promise we're going to break down the weaknesses of these pitchers and where we can target the bats. We just have to figure out the pitching we're going to want to play. So real quick, we'll break down a couple more and then we'll move to bats. 22.1% K rate. For Tanaka, a 12.5 swing strike rate. The ground ball, the fly ball, the walk rates, very good. Against righties, he does give up some hard contact and slugging, but he's still very good in the ground ball and the fly ball. The K percentage, he had 23.7% K rate. And then against lefties, same similar thing. He gives up some slugging, but he has a 20.4% K rate. The ground ball, the fly ball, the WOBA, and all that stuff's very impressive. So Tanaka is a guy. The only thing I would say is the 24.4% dip down, and K rate's a little unfortunate in this Rays matchup because they do have quite a few lefties in there. But when looking at my team hitting data sheet, you can see that they do strike out a fair amount. I mean, the Rays are third worst in the league this year in strikeout rate. They have a 26% K rate. Against righties, they have a 25.5% K rate, and then against lefties, it dips down to a 27.2. That doesn't apply in this matchup because Tanaka is indeed a right-handed pitcher. However, I will say that there are some strikeouts in this lineup, and I do think that Tanaka is a viable option. I would much rather play Tanaka than Jesus Luzardo when you're looking at the Rays strikeout rate in comparison to the Astros strikeout rate. So he's a guy I would have interest in. And then, I mean, the very last guy that I'm going to mention is that in Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez has a 20.9% K rate overall, a 10.8 swing strike rate. The ground ball, fly ball stuff's very good. He has a 24.1% K rate against righties, and then a 17.9% K rate against lefties. So he really excels against right-handed hitting. Lefties, it dips down a little bit. He's not as strong against lefties. And when looking at the Atlanta Braves, they once again are a right-handed heavy team. So I think this can fare well for Pablo Lopez. I do think that he's a viable option. In the same game as Ian Anderson, who's the guy I talked about first. So Pablo Lopez is viable. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats that we want to target today. Let's break down some weaknesses of these pitchers, spots we're going to want to target. And the very first guy, as always, I like to sort my sheet by skill and interactive ERA. And figure out the worst in that category because it's a good way of seeing how good a pitcher's been in the past and how good they're projected to be. And the worst on the slate is not Zach Davies. Take it on these Los Angeles Dodgers. The K rate's bad, the swing strike rate's bad, the ground ball, the walk, the hard hit rate's bad. Against righties, he gives up a 418 slugging, not good. And then against lefties, it's a 397, so he's a little more respectable. But overall, I mean, he's really just below average, not good. He doesn't strike anyone out, and he doesn't miss any bats. So when you don't miss any bats and you don't strike anyone out and you're taking on a Los Angeles Dodgers team that absolutely rakes, it's going to be kind of scary day for you, to be honest. And I do think that we can definitely have a ton of interest in these Dodgers bats. You're going to pay price tags for them, but I think they're well worth it. Obviously, our premier stack would be at the top of the order, and Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, that type of range. And then you could throw in a Cody Bellinger, Will Smith. Justin Turner is a guy that I do prefer to target against left-handed pitching if at all possible because he has a lot more pop against lefties. But he is right in the center of this order, and if they're going to be scoring a lot of runs, he is going to be part of it. It's just a matter of if he's going to get those home runs or not. So if I'm leaving one guy off my Dodgers stack, he'd probably be the one I'm leaving off at the top of the order, through the middle of the order, through that Cody Bellinger range. And then, of course, the guys at the bottom of the order can supply you with a little bit of salary relief and some production as well because Dodgers lineup's absolutely stacked. I don't know. There's no Vegas lines out yet, so it's going to be interesting to see what their implied run total is. But I definitely have interest in them. My favorite should be Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, and Will Smith. Moving further along, next worst on the slate is that in Jose Urquidy taking on these Oakland Athletics. You can see his K rate's really bad, his ground ball and his fly ball rate's really bad, which we like to see in daily fantasy sports. We want guys that are going to give up those fly balls, those home runs against right-handed hitting. Very bad. 492 slugging. Ground ball and fly ball stuff's terrible. The WOBA's terrible. And against lefties, he's very, very good. But I got news for you. These Oakland Athletics feature a lot of righties in their lineup. So this is great for us in our fantasy sports lineups. They have Tom Lizdell at the top of the order. That's a lefty. They have Jake Lamb and they have Matt Olson. However, everyone else is a righty. Marcus Semien, Mark Canha, Chris Davis, Ramon Laureano, Sean Murphy. Robbie Grossman's a switch hitter, so if he's in there, he's a lefty, so I'll correct myself on that. But, I mean, the majority of this lineup and the majority of the time that we're looking at this Oakland Athletics, we're interested in the righties outside of a Matt Olson. And when you're looking at the splits, I definitely think that they match up well with Urquidy. The Houston Astros bullpen hasn't been that good. They seem to be getting the job done for some reason. Statistically, they're not the greatest, but anyways, point being, I think the Oakland A's can jump on him, and you definitely got to have interest in the right-handed hitting when you're looking at his splits. Not good. So, and then after that, it's not like we're dealing with anyone on the rest of the slate that has a really bad swing strike rate, ground ball, or anything like that. So if you've been watching my videos at the playoffs, this is when I like to start breaking down the splits. So I'm looking at the righties, or how these pitchers fare against righties. We have two guys that we can target. The first being Masahiro Tanaka, taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. You can see against righties, he does have a 434 slugging, a 40.4% hard hit rate, and a 308 WOBA. So we definitely can target some of the righties in this Tampa Bay Rays lineup. And that's going to make me have interest in the same guy I was promoting yesterday in Randy Arozarena. I definitely think he's in a good spot. Manuel Margot, you can play. Willie Adames, you can play. Mike Zunino, you can play. But I would definitely prioritize Randy Arozarena. He's my top priority from that team. I'm looking at Tanaka splits. And then lastly, Jesus Luzardo is the guy you can target the right-handed bats with. He gives up a 417 slugging, a 33.1% hard hit rate, a 314 WOBA, not the greatest. And these Houston Astros do have some righties that slug left-handed pitching. Most notably, George Springer, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, Yulieski Gurriel, and Martin Maldonado. Those would be my favorite plays, those right-handed bats. And then you can throw in Jose Altuve as well at the top of the order, of course. So yeah, those are the guys. And then contrarian-wise, Clayton Kershaw does give up some hard contact to righties. So you can go ahead and throw in these premier righties for the San Diego Padres. Get them low-owned because they're taking on a Kershaw. And, if you get some home runs from them, they're going to be low-owned, and you could definitely be looking good in tournaments. So guys like Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Will Myers, Tommy Pham, Austin Nola. My favorite would definitely be those four, and Tatis, Machado, Will Myers, and Tommy Pham. Go ahead and stack them up, maybe get them low-owned against a Kershaw, and maybe win some big money in a tournament. I don't hate that. Lefties, we do have a couple guys we can target. Two that's, well, we already mentioned Zach Davies, the target overall, so, target those Dodgers lefties. But Pablo Lopez and Masahiro Tanaka are the ones. Specifically, Pablo Lopez is very good against righties, but against lefties, he's good with 450 slugging, a 333 WOBA, not good. So we're going to want to target the lefties in this Atlanta Braves lineup. Freddie Freeman, absolute great play today. Ozzie Albies, Nick Markakis, those are the guys you want to target. You don't want to leave out the righties when you're stacking them up, of course, because they're elite bats. Guys like Acuna and Marcell Ozuna, they're the ones that do the damage. But definitely prioritize Freddie Freeman because with the lefty matchup and how Pablo Lopez fares, Freddie's a big priority today. Then Masahiro Tanaka with the 446 slugging against lefties. You can definitely target the lefties in this Rays lineup. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff's really good, and then the WOBA and the hard hit rate's really good. Pablo Lopez has a weakness in the WOBA. Tanaka's isn't that bad. But the slugging it's just as bad as Pablo Lopez's. So definitely could target some power bats in this Tampa Bay Rays lineup. Austin Meadows, Brandon Lau, G-Man Choi. Those would be the three bats that I would be targeting as far as those lefties. And then that's when things, pretty much flatten out overall on the slate. You can see that Charlie Morton and Clayton Kershaw do give up a little bit of hard contact to lefties, so you can throw in some lefties in both the Padres and Yankees lineups to be contrarian. I would definitely throw in a lefty in the Yankees lineup first, and that lefty would be Aaron Hicks, way before I would throw in a lefty against Kershaw. But that could be a really contrarian play, and he does give up some hard contact and some slugging. So maybe if you throw in a Jake Cronenworth in your lineup or a Trent Grisham, and they're able to take him deep, that's going to be contrarian. You're going to pay a lot for them, so that's the ultimate contrarian move because they are priced up and they aren't in the greatest matchup, so they're going to have really low ownership. So if you're getting real sneaky, go ahead and do that. You're not going to feel great about it, but this is how we win tournaments. And I want to mention these strategies to you guys because it can help you win a tournament. So, yeah, that's pretty much my overall breakdown of today's slate, guys. Real quick before I let you go, I do have to give you my home run call of the day. And as always, I like to go ahead and go back over the things we've gone over and give you my reasoning as to why. And no doubt in my mind when I'm looking at the slate today and the splits, I'm definitely going to want to pick an Oakland A's righty bat. Urquidy with that 492 slugging, the WOBA, the fly ball, the ground ball, absolutely terrible, and he doesn't strike anyone out. And a guy that I haven't been able to talk about much all season, which breaks my heart because I absolutely love playing him in Daily Fantasy Sports, is that in Mr. Chris Davis in the 6th spot. Chris Davis with a K, as I like to call him. He comes in at 3.4K. I think that's an absolute steal. He's been heating up. And I love Chris Davis today. When you're looking at Urquidy splits, get him in your lineups. 3.4K, ton of power. and he's going deep today. So Chris Davis going to keep it rolling, keep the hot streak going. He's my home run call of the day. And that is all for my breakdown, guys. Please go ahead and check out my MLB packages linked in the description if you're interested in getting some extra content from me. And then also, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, that's going to help me out a ton. I'm going to try to return the value to you guys, giving you some valuable content, helping you win some money day in and day out. That's all from me. Play Chris Davis, guys. He's going deep today. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.